Chapter 1. A signature too perfect to trust. The fluorescent light buzzed overhead in the cramped office of Legal Equity Now, a non-profit tucked inside an aging brownstone building in South Bronx. On Evelyn Hart's desk, paperwork piled high like stories of people fighting to keep what little they had left. At 27, Evelyn was no stranger to these battles. She'd grown up in a world where promises shattered like glass, and justice was a luxury few could afford. Her black hair was tied up in a messy bun, and her brown eyes flecked with green scanned the latest case file with the focus of someone who knew details could be the key to survival. The file belonged to Mrs. Rosa Alvarez, a 68-year-old widow who had lived in a rent-controlled apartment on Tremont Avenue for over 30 years. Evelyn had met her at a recent community meeting where Rosa's trembling hands clutched an eviction notice from the Langston Group, a real estate giant with gleaming skyscrapers in Manhattan. The notice claimed Rosa had signed a contract agreeing to vacate her apartment for a redevelopment project. But Rosa swore she'd never seen the document, let alone signed it. Evelyn leaned back in her chair, the springs creaking beneath her weight. The office was quiet now, filled only with the distant sounds of traffic and the occasional shout from the street below. Most of her colleagues had gone home, but Evelyn stayed late, as she often did when a case didn't sit right. And this one definitely didn't. Rosa's story wasn't just a complaint, it was a puzzle, and Evelyn was very good at puzzles. She opened the file and spread the documents across her desk. The eviction notice was crisp and new, printed on Langston Group letterhead, with a sleek electronic signature at the bottom. Rosa M. Alvarez. The attached contract was dense with legal jargon, outlining terms of buyout and relocation. It looked legitimate, perhaps too legitimate. Evelyn's instincts buzzed with unease. She'd seen enough forged leases and shady deals to know that perfection was often suspicious. "All right, Rosa," she murmured, reaching for her laptop. "Let's see what we're dealing with." She pulled up a scan of Rosa's ID from a previous legal aid session, a habit she'd formed to preserve verified client records. The ID included Rosa's signature, shaky, uneven loops, the kind of handwriting shaped by arthritic hands and a lifetime of work. Evelyn opened DocuCheck, a civil litigation software used to analyze signatures and documents. It wasn't top of the line, but it was reliable, and Legal Equity Now had access thanks to a grant. She uploaded the signature from Rosa's ID and the electronic signature from the contract, then hit Compare. The software ran for a moment before producing a report. Evelyn squinted at the result. 98.7% match. Pixel-perfect alignment. She froze. Signatures were never that identical. Even when someone signed their name twice, there were always small differences. Pressure, slant, a subtle hesitation. A pixel-perfect signature usually meant it had been copied digitally or mechanically from an existing sample. Evelyn leaned in, heart picking up speed. She zoomed in on the signature from the contract. The strokes were unusually smooth, missing the micro jitters of Rosa's real hand. She checked the PDF's metadata, something she learned to do after uncovering a forged lease in a past case. The file's properties showed it had been generated using SmartSign, an e-signature platform. Evelyn frowned. The version listed was outdated, one flagged for security vulnerabilities and discontinued long ago. She grabbed her phone and dialed Rosa. The older woman answered on the second ring. "Miss Evelyn?" Rosa's voice was soft, with a trace of worry. "Is something wrong?" "Rosa, I just need to ask you something," Evelyn said, keeping her tone calm. "Did you ever sign anything from the Langston Group? Maybe during a community meeting or with one of their reps?" "Never," Rosa said firmly. "They came to my building talking about redevelopment, but I told them I wasn't going anywhere. That apartment is all my husband and I had. It's his memory." Evelyn's chest tightened. She heard the weight in Rosa's voice, the same weight she'd once felt, clutching the few items that reminded her of her mother in the orphanage. "All right, Rosa, I believe you. I'm going to look into this. Don't worry, okay?" After hanging up, Evelyn turned back to the contract. The Langston Group wasn't just any real estate company, they were a major player, headed by Jasper Langston, a CEO who regularly appeared on magazine covers and at charity galas. The press called him a visionary philanthropist, But Evelyn had seen enough visionaries build empires on the backs of people like Rosa. If the Langston Group had forged that signature, it wasn't a one-off mistake, it was a scheme. She opened her email and drafted a message to Marcus, a tech-savvy legal assistant who'd helped her analyze documents before. Can you do a deeper dive into this PDF's metadata? Something feels off, outdated smart sign version and a signature that's too perfect. Also try tracing the server origin. She attached the file and hit send. While waiting for Marcus to reply, Evelyn visited the Langston Group's website. Their latest press release boasted about revitalizing underserved communities, accompanied by a photo of Jasper Langston shaking hands with a city council member. His smile was polished, his suit flawless. Evelyn clenched her jaw. She'd grown up in the kind of neighborhoods Langston claimed to revitalize, places where families were pushed out to make way for luxury condos and artisanal cafes. Her phone buzzed with a message from Marcus. Metadata's weird. File was encoded by a server tied to Taverley & Sons, a law firm that shut down years ago. I'll need more time to dig into the server logs. You sure you want to go after a giant like this? Langston's loaded. Evelyn texted back, keep digging. If they forge that signature, I want to know why. She leaned back, eyes fixed on the contract. The signature stared back at her, too perfect, too clean. This wasn't just about Rosa anymore. If the Langston Group forged this document, how many others had been illegally evicted? How many signatures had been stolen? Evelyn gripped her pen. Her whole life she'd fought for the forgotten. She wasn't about to stop now. Next, she would file a motion to compel disclosure with the New York County Civil Court, forcing the Langston Group to produce the original contract and all related records. It was a gamble. Corporations like Langston had armies of lawyers, but Evelyn had faced tougher odds before. She thought of Rosa, alone in that apartment, clinging to the walls that held her memories. She thought of her mother, who lost everything when Evelyn was a child because of a landlord's mistake that left them on the street. Evelyn closed the file and stood up, her shadow cast faintly on the office window. Outside, the Bronx stretched wide, a patchwork of light and darkness. Somewhere out there, someone at Langston Group thought they could erase Rosa's home with a forged signature. They were wrong. You're watching Soul Stories, where every tale whispers of love, healing, and hope. If you believe that even the smallest act of kindness can change a life, and that love often arrives when we least expect it, don't forget to subscribe and be part of our journey. Now stay with us. The story is just beginning. Chapter 2. Metadata and Motive. The glow of the laptop screen lit up Evelyn Hart's face, highlighting the tension carved into her brow. The Legal Equity Now office was cloaked in darkness, save for the desk lamp casting light over a mess of papers. After discovering the pixel-perfect signature on Rosa Alvarez's eviction contract, Evelyn knew this case wasn't simple. The Langston Group's document wasn't just a clerical error, it was a lie, carefully constructed, and she was determined to expose it. Evelyn took a sip of lukewarm coffee, eyes fixed on the email she'd just received from Marcus, the organization's legal assistant and resident tech expert. His message was short but weighty. The PDF's metadata is definitely suspicious. I dug up a few things. Meet at the office, 7 a.m. She glanced at the wall clock, nearly midnight. Stifling a yawn, she typed back, "Sure, bring coffee." She shut her laptop, but her mind kept racing. Who forged the signature? And why target Rosa, a widow with nothing but a worn-out apartment on Tremont Avenue? The next morning, Marcus arrived with 2 paper coffee cups and a USB drive. The wiry young man with round glasses and a sleep-deprived look set the coffee down in front of Evelyn before plugging in the USB. "You owe me a nap," he said. "I've been up all night. You're not going to believe this." Evelyn raised an eyebrow, pulling her chair closer. "Tell me, what did you find?" Marcus opened a metadata analysis program, and a stream of detailed file data filled the screen. "First off," he began, "the file was created with Smart Sign, but it's an old version, one that's no longer supported due to known security flaws. Nobody uses it anymore unless they're trying to cover something up." He zoomed in on a data field. "Second, the timestamp's off. The contract was allegedly signed before Rosa even received notice about the redevelopment meeting. How could she sign something she didn't know existed? Evelyn tightened her grip on the coffee cup, working to stay calm. So someone created the contract ahead of time and pasted Rosa's forged signature onto it. What else? Marcus typed a few commands and opened another window. Here's the kicker. The file was encrypted by a server tied to Taverley & Sons, a law firm that's been defunct for years. I traced the IP, it's still active but registered through a shell company in Delaware. Shady as hell. Taverley & Sons, Evelyn repeated, her brows furrowed. She'd heard that name before in a real estate lawsuit years ago, when a firm was accused of falsifying documents to fast-track a project. If they shut down, someone's using their old infrastructure to generate fake contracts. But why? Marcus shrugged. Money? Power? Or both? Langston Group doesn't make mistakes like this. If they're involved, it's organized. What are you going to do? Evelyn stood, pacing the small office. She thought of Rosa, her tired but resolute eyes speaking of the apartment as a sacred memory of her late husband. She thought of herself a foster kid who once lost everything to people who knew how to manipulate the law. I'm going to make them explain, she said. I'll file a motion to compel disclosure with New York Civil Court. If this contract's fake, they'll have to produce the original, and if there is no original, they're done. Marcus let out a low whistle. You're going up against the Langston Group. Jasper Langston's got a whole army of lawyers, not to mention half the city council in his pocket. You sure about this? Evelyn gave a faint smile, her eyes steely. I've taken on worse. They think they can erase Rosa's life with a PDF? They're wrong. The rest of the day, Evelyn and Marcus prepared the motion. It was a bold legal move demanding that Langston Group turn over every document related to Rosa's contract, including the original and full system logs. If they didn't comply, the court could issue an injunction halting the redevelopment project, a major blow to a corporation looking to expand its empire. Evelyn drafted the motion with the precision of an attorney who knew every word could become a weapon. She cited metadata, irregularities, the docu-check analysis, and Rosa's sworn statement, arguing the contract showed clear signs of forgery. While Marcus printed the motion, Evelyn browsed Langston Group's website. A new promotional article boasted about their innovative vision for revitalizing the Bronx, accompanied by glossy images of glass towers rising above old neighborhoods. In the corner of the page, a photo showed Jasper Langston smiling before a crowd, his confident grin radiating ownership of the world. Evelyn felt heat rising in her chest. She'd grown up in neighborhoods like these, where revitalization always came with moving trucks and families pushed out into the margins. She closed her eyes and took a deep breath. This wasn't just Rosa's case anymore. If Langston Group forged one signature, how many others had they stolen? Every signature was a home, a family, a life. She opened her eyes, her resolve hardening. Late that afternoon, she brought the motion to the New York County Civil Court, a gray stone building nestled in the heart of Manhattan. Inside, the air was chilly. Footsteps echoed on marble floors. Evelyn filed the motion at the clerk's office, where a middle-aged woman skimmed the title and raised an eyebrow. This case involves the Langston Group? The clerk asked. Good luck. I don't need luck, Evelyn said calmly. I need the truth. Back at the office, Evelyn called Rosa. Miss Evelyn! Rosa's voice trembled over the phone. Any news? I just filed a motion demanding the Langston Group produce the original contract, Evelyn said. If they can't prove its validity, we have a chance to save your home. There was silence for a beat. Then Rosa whispered, Thank you. I don't know what to say. You're like an angel. Evelyn smiled, though her heart felt heavy. She wasn't an angel, just a lawyer with scars of her own, trying to do the right thing. Get some rest, Rosa. I'll handle the rest. She hung up and turned to the window. The Bronx stretched beneath the fading light, a patchwork of low buildings and neon signs. Somewhere in a high-rise office in Manhattan, the Langston Group was preparing for battle. What they didn't know was that Evelyn Hart, armed with an old laptop and a stack of evidence, was already in the ring. She wasn't fighting for fame or fortune. She was fighting for Rosa, for people like her mother, and for the girl she used to be, the one who still believed that justice was worth fighting for. Chapter 3. He thought it was just routine, The small courtroom of the New York County Civil Court was thick with the scent of old wood and the weight of tension. Rows of polished wooden benches reflected sunlight streaming through tall windows, casting sharp shafts of Manhattan brightness across the floor. Evelyn Hart sat upright at the plaintiff's table, one hand resting on a thick case file. Across from her, Rosa Alvarez, the 68-year-old widow, clutched her handkerchief tightly, worry flickering in her eyes, but beneath it, resolve. This was an internal hearing, the first step to review Evelyn's motion to compel disclosure. But she knew better. Today was no mere formality. Today was a chance to look the Langston Group in the eye. Across the room, Langston's legal team was poised and ready. Two attorneys in matching gray suits, their metal frame glasses glinting, whispered to each other coldly. But all attention gravitated toward the man seated behind them, Jasper Langston, the CEO himself. Tall, with neatly combed brown hair and a perfectly tailored navy suit, Jasper sat with a soft smile, like someone fresh from a press conference, not a man facing accusations of forgery. He was here to show goodwill, as his PR team had emphasized in recent media pieces. To Jasper, this was just a nuisance, a minor complaint, a misunderstanding to be smoothed over with polite words and just enough compensation. Evelyn glanced at him, her gaze razor sharp. She had read enough about Jasper Langston, the glossy philanthropist who donated to orphanages and built community parks. But she also knew men like him, smiles measured to the millimeter, promises calibrated for the camera. If Jasper thought his flawless exterior would make this go away, he was mistaken. The judge, a middle-aged man with salt and pepper hair and a calm baritone, brought the room to order with a gavel strike. We are convened for a preliminary hearing regarding the plaintiff's motion to compel disclosure in the matter of Rosa Alvarez versus Langston Group. Ms. Hart, you may proceed. Evelyn rose, smoothing her deep blue blazer. She didn't have the flashiness of the opposing counsel, but she had something they didn't: the truth. Your Honor, she began clearly, we are requesting that Langston Group produce the original contract allegedly signed by my client, Mrs. Rosa Alvarez, concerning the termination of her tenancy at Tremont Avenue. We have reason to believe this document is not merely suspicious, it is entirely forged. A ripple of murmurs swept the courtroom. Jasper leaned forward slightly, the smile on his lips faltering. His attorneys exchanged glances, but Evelyn didn't pause. She pulled a printed page from her file and held it up. This is an analysis from DocuCheck, a verified tool used in civil litigation. The electronic signature on the contract is a 98.7% match to a previous signature by Mrs. Alvarez pixel for pixel. Such a match is impossible unless the signature was digitally copied. She walked to the judge's bench and placed another document down. Furthermore, the PDF metadata reveals it was created using SmartSign, but an outdated version known for its security vulnerabilities. The timestamp indicates the contract was created before Mrs. Alvarez was even informed of the redevelopment project. And most notably, the file was encrypted by a server linked to Taverley and Sons, a law firm that ceased operations years ago. The room seemed to freeze. Rosa bowed her head, gripping her handkerchief tighter. A reporter scribbled furiously in the back row. Jasper stared at Evelyn, his confidence now mixed with surprise and something like doubt. He leaned toward his attorney and whispered, but Evelyn wasn't finished. She turned and pointed to the defendant's table. Your Honor, we formally request that Langston Group present the original contract, along with all system logs proving its creation. If they cannot or will not do so, then this contract holds no legal weight. She paused, her gaze locking with Jasper's. Her voice was deliberate, piercing. With all due respect, this contract is a forgery. Silence settled over the courtroom. Jasper blinked as if slapped. He glanced down at the folder his attorney had pushed toward him, flipping quickly through the pages. His eyes narrowed as they landed on Rosa's digital signature. It wasn't a document he'd seen before. He had approved hundreds of contracts for the Bronx project, but all through legal channels, none with these irregularities. Outdated SmartSign, an abandoned law firm server. A chill crept down his spine. Something was wrong, very wrong. Langston's lead attorney, a man with a polished voice and polished shoes, rose. Your Honor, these accusations are baseless. We will, of course, provide all documents required by the court. However, I must point out that Ms. Hart is making speculative claims without direct evidence of intentional forgery. Evelyn gave a thin smile. Speculation? I have signature analysis, metadata anomalies, and a contract that shouldn't logically exist. If Langston Group is confident, let them produce the original right now. The judge raised his gavel. That's enough. I will review the motion to compel disclosure. Langston Group is hereby given 7 days to produce the original contract and associated documentation. This hearing is adjourned. As the room emptied, Evelyn helped Rosa to her feet. You did so well, Rosa whispered, eyes glistening. I never thought I could stand up to them. We haven't won yet, Evelyn replied, resting a hand on Rosa's shoulder, but we're getting closer. Jasper remained seated, fingers gripping the edge of the table. He watched Evelyn, the woman whose unwavering gaze had turned his routine matter into a reckoning. He had come to shut down a lawsuit to protect the company's image. But now for the first time he wondered, had he been deceived too? He thought of Victor Dre, the deputy director who had pushed the Bronx project with suspicious enthusiasm. Had Victor kept something from him? Evelyn stepped out into the blinding Manhattan sun. She took a deep breath, like someone who had just thrown a stone into a hornet's nest. Jasper Langston might be a giant, but today she had made him flinch. She thought of Rosa and the other tenants in the Bronx who might be forced out by forged signatures. This wasn't just a lawsuit anymore. This was war. She tightened her grip on the file and walked into the bustling city crowd. Langston Group had 7 days to respond, and Evelyn Hart would be ready no matter what they brought. Chapter 4. The CEO starts digging. Jasper Langston sat in the corner office on the 30th floor of Langston Group headquarters, gazing out at the glittering Manhattan skyline. The expansive room with its walnut desk and expensive abstract paintings had once made him feel invincible. But now the air felt stifling, as if the very walls were closing in. The forged contract that Evelyn Hart had exposed during the hearing haunted him, a digital ink stain he hadn't approved, yet bore the name of his company. And for the first time in his career, Jasper felt the ground beneath him begin to shift. He flipped through the file from the hearing again, the printed analysis Evelyn had submitted. A signature, perfect to the pixel, a suspicious timestamp, and worst of all, a server connected to Taverley and Sons, a law firm long dissolved. Jasper wasn't a lawyer, but he was smart enough to know these weren't coincidences. Someone inside Langston Group, someone with system access and a clear motive, had deliberately forged Rosa Alvarez's contract, and he had a sinking feeling Rosa wasn't the only one. He stood and walked to the window. Below, New York pulsed with its usual energy. He thought of Evelyn Hart, the sharp-eyed attorney who had turned what he'd considered a minor matter into a storm. She wasn't just challenging his company, she was challenging him, the man who prided himself on building Langston Group with integrity. But if that contract was fake, then his so-called integrity was nothing more than a polished facade. And Jasper couldn't stomach the idea that he'd been deceived inside his own walls. He turned back to his desk and hit the intercom. "Lydia," he said to his assistant, "cancel all my meetings today and get Carl Simmons in here, right now." Carl Simmons was Langston Group's cybersecurity director, a quiet man with a background in federal agencies. If anyone could track down the digital footprint within the company's systems, it was Carl. When Carl entered, rumpled shirt, thick glasses, Jasper didn't waste time. "I need you to audit every contract connected to the Bronx redevelopment project. Check how many use the outdated version of SmartSign and who accessed them. I want everything, every click, every digital fingerprint." Carl raised an eyebrow. "Is this an internal investigation, sir? Because if I dig deep, I may find things people won't want to see." Jasper looked him dead in the eye. "If there's rot, I want to see it first. Do it." For the next several days, Carl and his team worked around the clock, pulling server logs and analyzing internal data. Jasper kept it quiet, not even informing the legal team. But each night, as he sat alone in his office, a quiet fury burned in him. He'd trusted his team, especially Victor Dre, his deputy director, the man who'd pushed the Bronx project with an almost obsessive urgency. Victor, with his easy smile and pristine financial reports, was once the person Jasper believed would help take Langston Group public with a stellar IPO. But now, Jasper couldn't shake the feeling that Victor was hiding something. Eventually, Carl returned with a thick binder and a USB drive. "We've got a problem," he said in his gravelly voice. He opened his laptop and displayed a data chart. "I found at least 15 contracts from the Bronx project using the outdated SmartSign version. All have e-signatures that match previous resident signatures, perfect matches. These weren't signed by the tenants. They were batch-generated from templates." Jasper's hands clenched. "Who did this?" Carl pointed to a line in the server log. "All the files were uploaded from Victor Dre's admin account. But there's more. I found internal emails between Victor and a low-level clerk in the city's planning office. Victor made a wire transfer to this clerk through an offshore account to obtain a municipal authorization. That authorization allowed Langston Group to fast-track evictions without tenant consent. But when I cross-checked it, the authorization was fake. No legitimate city official ever signed it." Jasper felt heat surge up his neck. He stood and began pacing. "Victor," he muttered, "he did all of this for what?" Carl opened another file, this one a financial report. The Bronx project was a mess, low-value land, high legal risk. But Victor reported to the board that we could liquidate these parcels to boost profitability before the IPO. He wanted to inflate the numbers, turn junk land into investor bait. Forging contracts was the quickest way to evict residents and flip the property. Jasper stopped, gripping the edge of a chair. He thought of Rosa Alvarez, of the others in the Bronx. People treated like obstacles to Victor's ambition. He thought of Evelyn Hart, standing in court and calling the forgery what it was. She was right and he, the CEO, had been blind to it. "Is there more?" he asked, voice hoarse. Carl hesitated, then slid a printed email across the desk. "This is from Victor to an outside finance firm. He promises to sell Bronx property at double the market value after evictions are complete. He's not just working for Langston Group, he's playing both sides." Jasper sank into his chair, the weight of betrayal hitting like a punch to the chest. He had trusted Victor, considered him a partner in the company's rise. But now it was clear Victor hadn't just betrayed Jasper, he had betrayed the very values Jasper had once sworn to uphold. The glowing articles, the charity galas now, they all felt like a bitter joke. "I want all of this secured," Jasper said, his voice cold. "And Carl, tell no one. I'll deal with Victor myself." Carl nodded and left the room. Jasper sat alone in the dim light. He opened his laptop and searched for Evelyn Hart. A profile from the Legal Equity Now website appeared, along with a photo of her standing among tenants, eyes fierce with conviction. The article described one of her past victories in a wrongful eviction case. The final line read, "Evelyn Hart doesn't fight for fame. She fights for the forgotten." He closed the laptop and stared out at the city. Evelyn Hart had been right about the forgery. And now Jasper knew he had to face the truth, not just to save the company, but to redeem himself. Victor Dre might think he's won, but Jasper Langston had never been the kind to walk away from a fight. This battle had only just begun. Chapter 5. Between Duty and Redemption. Evelyn Hart stepped into the glass tower of Langston Group, feeling like she had entered the lair of a beast. The grand lobby, with its gleaming marble floors and modern art lining the walls, radiated a cold kind of wealth. She tightened her grip on her briefcase, her sharp eyes scanning the polite smile of the receptionist. Jasper Langston had personally called Legal Equity Now, inviting her to meet and discuss the case. Evelyn wasn't naive. This wasn't a friendly invitation. This was a strategic move, and she needed to play it smart. On the 30th floor, she was led into Jasper's corner office. The spacious room overlooked the Manhattan skyline through massive windows. Jasper stood behind a walnut desk, his navy suit crisp and immaculate. He smiled, but the smile didn't reach his eyes. "Ms. Hart," he said, his voice deep and composed, "thank you for coming. Please, have a seat." Evelyn didn't sit. She stood tall, arms crossed. "I'm not here for small talk, Mr. Langston. If this is about a settlement, say it. But I won't let Mrs. Rosa or anyone in the Bronx lose their home over a forged contract." Jasper raised an eyebrow, but didn't seem offended. He stepped from behind the desk and gestured to the chair again. "You misunderstand. I'm not here to negotiate. I want you to see the truth." He paused, locking eyes with her. "I never approved that contract. I swear it as a human being." Evelyn let out a cold laugh, the sound echoing through the quiet room. "And how many times have you sworn that to how many poor families, Mr. Langston? People evicted to make room for your luxury towers? You think I'll take the word of a CEO backed by a battalion of lawyers?" Jasper clenched his jaw, but his voice remained steady. "You have every right to doubt me. But if you really want justice for Rosa, you need to hear me out. I'm not your enemy." Evelyn narrowed her eyes. She'd gone up against men like Jasper before, perfect smiles, polished words, hiding ugly truths. But something in his voice, genuine honesty, or just masterful acting, gave her pause. "Fine," she said at last, sitting down. "You've got 5 minutes. Convince me." Jasper opened a thick binder on his desk and slid it across to her. "These are internal system logs from Langston Group, showing every action tied to the Bronx contracts. Not one of them was personally approved by me. All went through legal, and I've found proof that they were created from an admin account that doesn't belong to me." Evelyn flipped through the pages, scanning the data. Access logs, IP addresses, traces of the outdated smart sign software. She stopped on a page listing internal emails. Victor Dre, deputy director, appeared repeatedly. "You expect me to believe you knew nothing about this?" she asked, voice tight with skepticism. "You're the CEO. Everything flows through you." Jasper sighed and sat across from her. "I trusted the wrong people. I believed I was building a company on ethics, but I was wrong, and I'm trying to fix that." He pulled a USB drive from the drawer and plugged it into his laptop. "This is security footage from a meeting room in legal. Watch it." The screen lit up, showing video from a ceiling-mounted camera. Victor Dre stood in the frame, grinning smugly as he addressed a group of employees. "Use the old contract templates," Victor said on the footage. "Drop in the signatures from the tenant database. No one checks this stuff. We need to clear out the Bronx before investors start asking questions." A hesitant staff member asked, "What if someone finds out?" Victor laughed. "Who's gonna find out? Some old lady from Tremont? Or a community lawyer with a $0 budget?" Evelyn felt heat rising to her face. She thought of Rosa, of the sleepless nights spent analyzing metadata, of the judge's gaze as she exposed the forgery. Victor had treated it like a game, but he hadn't counted on that community lawyer being the one to expose him. She turned to Jasper, her voice shaking with fury. "How long have you known this? And what did you do to stop it?" Jasper looked her in the eye, unwavering. "I only found out after your hearing. I launched an internal investigation, and this is what I uncovered. Victor Dre overstepped, forged contracts, even faked a municipal authorization to accelerate evictions. He did it all to polish the numbers before our IPO." Evelyn shook her head and stood. "You think I'm going to believe you're innocent because of one video and a stack of papers? You're the head of this company, Langston. Everything Victor did carries your name, and people like Rosa are paying the price for your failure." Jasper stood too, his voice now laced with desperation. "You think I wanted this? You think I built this company to throw people out of their homes? I made a mistake trusting Victor, but I'm not a liar, and I won't let him destroy what I built." Evelyn stopped, her hand gripping the strap of her briefcase. She wanted to believe Jasper was simply careless, not complicit. His video, his documents, they were compelling, but she'd learned long ago that truth is rarely simple. She thought of her mother, who once believed a landlord's promises and lost everything. She thought of Rosa, who put her faith in Evelyn. If Jasper was telling the truth, Victor Dre was the real villain. But if Jasper was lying, she had just walked into a trap. "I need time to review these," she said coldly. "But don't expect me to trust you because you act sincere. That's not how justice works." Jasper nodded, his eyes fixed on her. "I don't expect you to trust me right away. I just hope you'll keep fighting for Rosa and for the truth. I'll give you everything you need to bring Victor down." Evelyn turned and walked out of the office. The door clicked shut behind her, but her heart pounded in her chest. She didn't know if she just met an ally or a manipulator. For the first time, she felt unsure. Jasper Langston wasn't like the other CEOs she'd faced. He might be a man trying to make things right or a skilled liar. Either way, she would find out. She stepped into the elevator, Manhattan's lights sparkling through the glass. This battle had just become more complicated, and Evelyn Hart wasn't sure she was ready for what came next. But she knew one thing. Rosa deserved the truth, and Evelyn wouldn't stop until she found it. Chapter 6. Victor Strikes Back. Victor Dre sat in his office, the glow from his computer screen casting shadows on his tense face. The room was dark, save for the faint streetlights of Manhattan filtering through the window, streaking pale light across his desk. He had just received a tip from a loyal employee. Jasper Langston had launched an internal investigation, digging into the Bronx redevelopment contracts, and the name Evelyn Hart, that stubborn attorney from Legal Equity, now kept surfacing as the one who started the storm. Victor clenched his fists, nails digging into his palms. He had meticulously covered his tracks, but Evelyn, with her infuriating intellect and relentlessness, had sniffed out the forged contracts. And Jasper, the man Victor once thought he could manipulate, was quickly becoming a threat. But Victor wasn't the type to go down quietly. He had clawed his way up from the slums of Brooklyn, where survival depended on crushing the enemy before they crushed you. If Jasper and Evelyn thought they could bring him down, they were in for a brutal awakening. He opened his laptop and called a shady PR firm he'd used in the past for smear campaigns. "I need something done," he said, voice low and cold. "Start a rumor about Evelyn Hart. Tie her to her client, Rosa Alvarez. Suggest there's something inappropriate going on. Say she's using the old woman to manipulate land sales. Spread it across local blogs and community forums. I want Bronx residents to doubt her." A soft laugh echoed on the other end. "Easy, but for it to stick, we'll need a little flavor. Got anything personal?" Victor smirked. "Leave that to me." Next, he moved to the lifeblood of Legal Equity Now, its donors. He knew nonprofits like Evelyn's survived on charity funds and private backers. Victor created an anonymous email from a disposable account and sent it to a list of top donors' addresses he'd obtained from a former insider at the firm. The message was short but sharp as a knife. "Did you know Evelyn Hart is using your funds to pursue personal legal vendettas, risking the credibility of Legal Equity Now? You may want to reconsider your investment." He attached a forged blog post written by the PR firm accusing Evelyn of manipulating Rosa to profit from land flipping in the Bronx. But he didn't stop there. Victor contacted an old hacker associate, cheap, discreet, and effective. "I want you to breach Evelyn Hart's personal computer," he instructed. "Find anything, emails, files, photos, then accidentally leak it during a Bronx community press event. Make it look like an unfortunate slip." The hacker agreed. Victor sat back, a quiet satisfaction settling in. Evelyn Hart might be a clever attorney, but she wasn't prepared for someone willing to fight dirty. And as for Jasper, soon he'd be so consumed with managing a PR crisis that he'd have no time left to investigate anything. Meanwhile, Evelyn sat in her small office at Legal Equity Now, the fluorescent lights giving her a dull headache. An email from the board had just arrived, summoning her to an emergency meeting. The message was terse. "We need to discuss allegations concerning your professional conduct." Evelyn frowned, her heartbeat spiking. Allegations? She had dedicated her life to defending people like Rosa, working late nights, living modestly, never pocketing a cent beyond her salary. What was going on? The boardroom was tense. 5 trustees sat around the table. At the head was Ellen Carver, a stern-faced older woman who had mentored Evelyn for years. "Evelyn," Ellen began, her voice steady but grave, "we received an anonymous email accusing you of inappropriate conduct with your client, Mrs. Rosa Alvarez. It alleges you're exploiting a personal relationship to influence the lawsuit and benefit from the Bronx land deal." Evelyn felt the blood drain from her face. "That's ridiculous," she burst out, her voice trembling with outrage. "I've done nothing but protect Rosa. Who sent this? Do they have any proof?" Ellen slid a stack of papers toward her. "The email includes a blog post and several online comments. What's more concerning is that this morning, some of our donors reached out. They're threatening to pull funding if we don't investigate. And She hesitated, exchanging uneasy looks with the other members. A private document of yours was leaked during a Bronx community meeting. An email allegedly between you and Mrs. Rosa with questionable content. Evelyn's hands shook as she flipped through the pages. The email was a fake, designed to look like she'd written it. We'll make a good profit if we sell the land at the right time. She looked up, eyes glassy with disbelief. This is fabricated. I never wrote this. Someone hacked my computer. But the eyes of her colleagues, those she'd fought alongside in countless cases, now shimmered with doubt. Marcus, her loyal legal assistant, looked down and avoided her gaze. Then came the blow. David, a board member, spoke softly. Evelyn, we're not saying you're guilty, but to protect the organization's reputation, we have to place you on temporary suspension, pending investigation. Evelyn stood, the world tilting beneath her. Suspension? You think I spent years of my life working day and night for personal gain? I've sacrificed everything for people like Rosa. Her voice cracked, but no one responded. She turned and walked out, the door slamming shut behind her. Back in her tiny Bronx apartment, Evelyn sat on the worn couch, staring blankly at a patchy wall. The place was silent, except for distant car horns. She opened her laptop and searched her name. Local blogs were buzzing with rumors, filled with venomous comments. Another corrupt community lawyer. She's using that old woman to cash in. Evelyn slammed the laptop shut, tears spilling over. It wasn't the suspension that hurt, it was the betrayal, the silence from Marcus, the disbelief in Ellen's eyes. These people had been her second family. She thought of Rosa, her unwavering trust in court. She thought of Jasper Langston, the man who'd handed her the digital logs and damning video of Victor Dre. Was Victor behind this? Had he realized she was the real threat, and now he was trying to break her? Evelyn wiped her eyes and clenched her fists. Victor could steal her job, her reputation, even the trust of her colleagues, but he couldn't steal her will. She stood and opened her briefcase. Inside were the system logs and the security footage Jasper had given her. If Victor wanted to fight dirty, she'd fight back, but on her terms. She would expose the truth not just for Rosa, but for herself. This war wasn't over, not yet. Still following the story? If this story found you outside of Soul Stories, we invite you home to where every touching tale begins with truth, hope, and heart. Chapter 7. Rock Bottom. Evelyn Hart's small apartment in South Bronx was swallowed in darkness, lit only by the faint glow of streetlights filtering through worn curtains, casting dull streaks of light across the scuffed wooden floor. The noise from the city below, honking horns, revving engines, rose up like a never-ending soundtrack to life in this forgotten corner of New York. Evelyn sat curled on the sofa, her head in her hands, dark hair falling messily over her pale face. Her laptop sat dark on the coffee table in front of her, surrounded by a stack of letters from Legal Equity Now donors, all announcing the withdrawal of funding for her housing lawsuits. The rumors Victor Dre had unleashed had spread like wildfire. Now she had no office, no clients, no reputation. She shut her eyes, trying to stop the tears from spilling. She had devoted her entire life to defending people like Rosa Alvarez, those forgotten by the system. She once believed she was an unstoppable flame. Now she felt like nothing but ashes. The board had suspended her. Her colleagues, people she once saw as family, had turned their backs. Online, the forums were calling her a fraud, a woman who exploited the elderly for profit. The fake email, the vicious blog post about her manipulating Rosa to steal land, all of it haunted her like a waking nightmare. She stood up and walked to the kitchen, pouring a glass of water, but her hand trembled so badly she spilled half of it. "Who am I now?" she whispered, her voice hollow. Without legal equity. Now, without her cases, she was no one. She thought of her mother, who lost everything to a ruthless landlord when Evelyn was a child. She had sworn never to let anyone else suffer the same fate. But now she was the one being crushed. A knock on the door snapped her out of her spiral. Evelyn frowned and quickly wiped her tears. Who could be here at this hour? She peeked through the peephole, and her heart caught in her chest. Jasper Langston stood there, his navy suit rumpled, his expression grave. She opened the door, her voice cold. "What are you doing here, Langston? I'm not in the mood for one of your games." Jasper didn't smile. He didn't charm. He was holding a thick briefcase, his eyes locked on hers. "I'm not here to play games, Evelyn. I'm here because of Victor Dre, and because of you." Evelyn crossed her arms and tilted her head. "Because of me? You think I'll believe anything you say after everything that's happened? Your company destroyed me. The rumors, the fake emails, the hacking. Everything started when I went up against Langston Group." Jasper stepped inside without waiting for permission. He placed the briefcase on her small kitchen table, his voice low but steady. "It wasn't my company, it was Victor. He knows I'm investigating him, and he knows you were the first to uncover the forged contract. He's behind all of it, the rumors, the anonymous emails, even the hack into your computer. But I have proof, enough to bring him down." Evelyn looked at him, her eyes flickering between doubt and exhaustion. She wanted to scream, to throw him out, but she was too tired to argue. She sat down and motioned for him to continue. "Fine. Show me." Jasper opened the case and pulled out a thick stack of documents and a USB drive. "This is the internal investigation report. Server logs show Victor ordered mass production of forged contracts using copied signatures from tenant records. He paid a hacker to break into your computer, and he hired a PR firm to spread false rumors about you. I also have emails between Victor and an outside finance firm promising to sell off the Bronx properties once the evictions were done." He paused, sliding the USB toward her. "And this is a recording from an internal meeting where Victor admits everything." Evelyn flipped through the pages, her hands trembling. The data, the emails, the names, they matched what she had suspected. She plugged in the USB and opened the audio file. Victor's voice came through smug and cold. "Evelyn Hart is an ant. Crush her before she makes more noise. And Jasper? He's too busy playing the hero to notice we're already winning." Evelyn stopped the playback, her eyes brimming with tears, but this time, not from grief, from rage. She looked up, voice shaking. "You knew all this, and you still let me be ruined? I lost everything, Langston. My office, my clients, my colleagues, they look at me like I'm a fraud. Who am I now to do anything?" Jasper stepped forward and knelt in front of her, his gaze pained. "I didn't let you be ruined, Evelyn. I came here because I'm turning Victor in. But I can't do this alone. You started this. You were the one who saw the forged contract. You're the one Rosa and the others in the Bronx believe in." Evelyn broke down, tears falling freely. "I don't have anything left, Jasper. I fought all my life, and now there's nothing. I can't keep going." He reached for her hand, gently but firmly. "It's when we lose everything that we find out what we really stand for," he said quietly. "You're not a fraud. You're the only one who had the courage to stand for the truth, and I'll stand with you if you'll let me." Evelyn looked into his eyes, searching for deception, but saw only sincerity. She thought of Rosa, the other tenants waiting for justice, her mother who once told her that courage wasn't the absence of fear, but pushing forward despite it. She wiped her tears and pulled her hand away. "I don't trust you yet," she said hoarsely, "but I trust the truth. If you want to bring Victor down, prove it with action." Jasper nodded, standing. "I will, but I need you at the next hearing. Victor won't see it coming if we join forces." Evelyn looked at the documents on the table, then at him. She didn't know if she could trust him, but she knew she couldn't walk away. Not now, not when the truth was this close. She rose to her feet, her hand clenched tight. "All right, Langston, but if you betray me, I'll take you down myself." Jasper gave her a small, sober smile, the first that night. "I wouldn't expect anything less." As he left, Evelyn stood alone in the apartment. She opened the window, letting the cold Bronx air fill the room. Outside, the city lived on despite the darkness. She was no longer the lawyer of legal equity now. She had no title, no reputation, but she was still Evelyn Hart, and she had never stopped fighting. This time she would fight not just for Rosa. She would fight for herself. Chapter 8. Exposure and Resolve. The main courtroom at the New York County Civil Court was packed. Every wooden bench was filled with Bronx residents, members of the press, and city officials. The air was heavy with anticipation, charged with tension. Cameras from local news stations were aimed at the main podium, where the judge was about to open an expanded hearing. This was no longer a minor lawsuit about Rosa Alvarez's contract. It had escalated into a public scandal, with Langston Group, one of New York's most powerful real estate empires, at the center of the storm. Evelyn Hart sat at the plaintiff's table beside Rosa, who clutched her hand like a lifeline. Evelyn wore a deep blue blazer, her dark hair neatly tied back, and her eyes sharper than ever. She had lost her reputation, her office, and the trust of her colleagues because of the lies Victor Dre had spread. But today, she wasn't here as a suspended lawyer. She was here to witness the truth come to light and to make sure Victor paid. Across the aisle, Jasper Langston sat at the defense table, but not with the flash of high-powered lawyers flanking him like before. He wore a simple gray suit, his expression solemn. Beside him sat Carl Simmons, Langston Group's cybersecurity director, holding a thick file and a USB drive containing every piece of evidence they had uncovered. Jasper looked briefly at Evelyn. She returned a nod, cautious but resolute. She still didn't fully trust him, but she believed in what he was about to do. The judge, a sharp-voiced woman with silver hair, struck her gavel. This expanded hearing is now in session. We are here to examine allegations of forged contracts related to the Bronx redevelopment project under Langston Group. Mr. Langston, I understand you have a statement? Jasper rose, drawing a breath as every eye in the room turned toward him, angry residents, eager reporters, and Evelyn watching his every move. He stepped to the podium, documents in hand. Your Honor, ladies and gentlemen, he began, voice steady and clear. I am not here today to defend Langston Group. I am here to expose a truth, even one I, myself, was kept from seeing. He held up a set of papers. This is the result of an internal investigation conducted by our cybersecurity team. We discovered that at least 15 contracts tied to the Bronx project were forged signatures copied from tenant databases, inserted into documents created with outdated SmartSign software, and encrypted through a server belonging to a defunct law firm. All of it orchestrated by one man. Victor Dre, Langston Group's deputy director. A wave of murmurs rippled through the courtroom. Reporters scribbled furiously. Cameras flashed. Rosa squeezed Evelyn's hand and whispered, "You did it, sweetheart." But Evelyn stayed silent, her eyes locked on Jasper. Jasper nodded to Carl, who inserted the USB into the courtroom projector. First, an audio recording played Victor's voice, smug and chilling. Clear out the Bronx before investors start asking questions. Forge the signatures. Use old templates. No one's going to check. Next, the screen displayed internal emails between Victor and a private finance firm, promising to sell the Bronx land at double its value once the evictions were completed. Then, a forged municipal authorization document appeared, alongside proof that Victor had bribed a low-level city clerk to obtain it. The room erupted. A resident stood and shouted, "They kicked my mother out over that!" A reporter called out to Jasper for comment. The judge slammed her gavel, demanding order. Jasper raised a hand, requesting to continue. He turned to face the room, his voice ringing with both pain and purpose. "I'm not stepping down," he said. "I'm staying not to protect my position, but to rebuild Langston Group into what I once dreamed it could be, a company where ethics are never sacrificed for profit." He paused, eyes sweeping the crowd. "If I resign, the next person could bury this. But if I stay, I'll make sure no more contracts are signed behind the backs of people trying to sleep in the homes they call sanctuary." Applause erupted from the rows of residents, mixed with a few scattered jeers from skeptics. Evelyn felt her heart pound. She had once thought of Jasper as just another self-serving CEO, but today she saw a man willing to stake his reputation on doing the right thing. She glanced at Rosa, who was wiping tears from her eyes. "He's telling the truth, isn't he?" Rosa whispered. Evelyn nodded, for the first time letting herself feel a glimmer of hope. Jasper continued, his voice now firm with resolve. "I pledge full transparency on every Langston Group project under suspicion. I invite the public, this court, and any affected community to bring claims forward. I'm not here to protect a company. I'm here to protect the truth." He turned toward Evelyn, eyes speaking more than words. "This is for you, for Rosa." The judge banged her gavel once more. "We will recess to review the evidence submitted today." As the crowd spilled from the courtroom, reporters swarmed around Jasper. He declined to speak, instead walking calmly toward Evelyn and Rosa. "Ms. Hart, he said softly. You were right all along. Thank you for not giving up. Evelyn stood, meeting his eyes. This isn't over, Langston. Victor's still out there, and your company still has a long way to go. But her voice lacked the harshness it once carried. She saw something different in him now, not a polished executive, but a man trying to reclaim his integrity. Rosa reached for Jasper's hand, tears falling freely. Thank you. I just want to keep my home. Jasper bowed his head. You will, I promise. As Jasper turned and left, Evelyn stood silently, watching him go. She thought of the dark days in her empty apartment, the nights when she believed everything was lost. But today she knew, the truth never disappears as long as someone is willing to fight for it. She gripped Rosa's hand tightly and looked ahead. Victor Dre may have unleashed the storm, but Evelyn Hart and Jasper Langston were standing together to end it. Chapter 9, Healing from Within. The early morning sun streamed through the tall windows of the Langston Group's conference room, casting light over the solemn faces gathered around the long wooden table. Gone were the glamorous shareholder meetings and lavish galas today. This room was where Jasper Langston confronted the consequences of his company's failings. He stood at the head of the table, sleeves rolled up on his white shirt, no blazer, no tie, as if to strip away the polished CEO image the media once praised. Seated before him were a small group, independent lawyers, a third-party auditor, and Evelyn Hart, the woman who had changed everything. Evelyn sat in the corner, a file folder in front of her. Her eyes were still sharp, though no longer cold. Since the public hearing where Jasper exposed Victor Dre's crimes, her reputation had been restored. Legal Equity Now's board had issued an apology and offered her reinstatement, but Evelyn hadn't made a decision. She was here for another reason. Jasper had invited her to serve as a community ethics advisor on a newly formed independent legal committee under a special contract, detached from Langston Group. It was an unexpected offer, and she still wasn't sure whether she should accept it. Jasper began the meeting, his voice low but steady. Thank you all for being here. This committee has been established to review every Langston Group project related to land seizures, especially in the Bronx. We will work transparently, independently, and relentlessly. Our goal isn't to protect the company, it's to repair the harm we've caused. He turned to Evelyn, sincerity in his eyes. Ms. Hart will serve as community ethics advisor, ensuring the voices of residents are heard. She's proven that truth matters more than reputation. I believe she'll keep us on the right path. Evelyn gave a small nod, though her mind remained tangled. She hadn't forgotten the dark days in her empty apartment when Victor's rumors had destroyed everything. Jasper had helped restore the truth, but was he doing all this out of remorse or to salvage the company's image? She remained silent, listening as the auditor outlined a comprehensive plan to investigate all Langston Group real estate transactions. After the meeting, Jasper asked her to stay. They stood by the window overlooking the buzz of Manhattan below. You've agreed to join the committee, he said softly, but I can tell you still don't trust me. Evelyn crossed her arms, turning toward him. I believe in what you're doing, the committee, the audit, the compensation for residents. But I'm not sure what's driving you, Jasper. Aren't you afraid of losing your reputation? The media is calling you a failed CEO, and shareholders are furious you postponed the IPO. Why are you doing all this? Jasper gave a faint smile, his gaze fixed on the city. I'm not rebuilding my reputation, Evelyn. I'm rebuilding myself. He paused, voice lowering. I used to think I was a good person because I donated to charity, because I built community parks. But I let Victor corrupt this company under my nose. I let people like Mrs. Rosa lose their homes. Reputation can be lost, but I can't live knowing I failed the very values I claim to believe in. Evelyn looked at him, really looked, and for the first time saw a man stripped of performance. No bravado, no spin, just a man facing his failures. She thought of Mrs. Rosa, now fully compensated and back in her apartment on Tremont Avenue. She thought of dozens of Bronx residents who had either recovered their homes or received enough to start anew. Jasper had kept his promise. Many buildings were preserved for original tenants, and illegal evictions had been stopped. But Evelyn still wasn't ready to let go of her doubts. You say all the right things, she said calmly, but words aren't enough. If you truly want change, let this committee operate with complete independence. No interference, no pressure, and if they find more wrongdoing, you take responsibility, whatever that means. Jasper nodded, unwavering. I agree, and I want you to lead the committee, not just advise it. You have the experience, the courage, and most importantly, you understand what people like Mrs. Rosa need. Evelyn froze, surprised by the offer. She had lost legal equity now, but this was a chance to continue doing what she loved, defending the vulnerable. She thought of her mother, who once said justice wasn't a destination, but a journey. I'll consider it, she replied, voice softening, but I'll do it my way. Jasper smiled this time, genuinely. I wouldn't expect anything else. In the days that followed, the legal committee began its work. Independent attorneys reviewed every contract, every transaction Langston Group made in the Bronx. Auditors dug deep into company accounts, uncovering additional shady payments Victor had made to external financial firms. Each discovery cut deeper into Langston Group's reputation, but Jasper did not interfere. He made every report public, even when it enraged shareholders and invited further media criticism. Evelyn, though not yet officially named chair of the committee, worked tirelessly. She met with Bronx residents, listened to their stories, and ensured every committee decision prioritized the community's needs. One afternoon, she visited Mrs. Rosa at her apartment on Tremont Avenue. The elderly woman poured tea, hands trembling, but her smile radiant. You saved this home, she said, eyes misty. I pray for you every night, Evelyn. Evelyn squeezed her hand, warmth spreading through her chest. I didn't do it alone, Mrs. Rosa. Someone else is trying to make things right, too. Mrs. Rosa tilted her head. Mr. Langston? I saw him on TV talking about keeping our homes. Is he sincere? Evelyn smiled for the first time without hesitation. I think he is, but I'm still watching him. Back at the committee's temporary office, Evelyn opened her laptop and read the latest report. A front-page article from the New York Times caught her eye. Langston Group under audit. CEO commits to transparency after forgery scandal. The article quoted Jasper, "We were wrong, and we will make it right. There are no shortcuts to justice." Evelyn closed the laptop and looked out the window. The Bronx stretched before her, a blend of light and shadow. But this time, she saw hope. She thought of her question to Jasper. Aren't you afraid of losing your reputation? And his answer, I'm rebuilding myself. Maybe she was doing the same, rebuilding Evelyn Hart, not from reputation, but from a renewed belief in justice. She picked up her pen and began making notes for the next committee meeting. The fight wasn't over, but this time she wasn't fighting alone. You're watching Soul Stories exclusive to our channel. If you're still with us, drop a comment, we read and cherish them all. Subscribe to support more heartfelt, original stories. Thanks for being part of the Soul Stories family. Chapter 10, A Love That Was Never Fake. 1 year later, a small park in South Bronx basked in the golden light of spring. Saplings swayed gently in the cool breeze, and a temporary stage had been set up beneath a large banner. The Langston Hart Community Housing Fund. The crowd gathered residents, reporters, city officials, creating an atmosphere of warmth and pride. Children chased balloons, and elders exchanged stories about how their neighborhood was finally safe from forced redevelopment. Today marked the launch of a housing initiative to provide stability for low-income families. And more than that, it stood as living proof of what Jasper Langston and Evelyn Hart had accomplished together. Following the scandal that once rocked Langston Group, backstage, Evelyn held her speech tightly in one hand. Dressed in a dark navy blazer with her black hair tied up high, her eyes gleamed with confidence and emotion. Over the past year, she had led the independent legal committee that helped Langston Group compensate residents who were illegally evicted and protected many other housing projects across the Bronx. She had returned to legal equity now as director of the Housing Justice Program, but what meant the most to her was the trusting smile of Mrs. Rosa Alvarez, sitting proudly in the front row, eyes full of hope. Jasper walked onto the stage, his tall frame clad in a simple gray suit. He held the microphone, his voice deep and calm. Thank you all for being here. The Langston Hart Community Housing Fund is a promise that no family in the Bronx will ever lose their home again because of past mistakes. Applause spread through the park. Jasper looked toward Evelyn, his eyes shining. But I couldn't stand here today if it weren't for one woman who dared to reveal the truth and forced us to face ourselves. Please welcome Miss Evelyn Hart. A wave of applause erupted as Evelyn stepped onto the stage. She placed her notes aside and spoke straight from the heart. I grew up in neighborhoods just like this, she began, her voice strong and steady. I know what it feels like to be abandoned by the system. When I fought for Mrs. Rosa and the residents of the Bronx, I was also fighting for myself and for all the people who never had a voice. She looked at Rosa, who was wiping her tears. Today, we stand here because justice prevailed for people like Rosa and for those who dared to rise, even when everything stood against them. The crowd cheered, and Evelyn glanced at Jasper. His gaze held deep respect and something warmer. She smiled and continued. This fund will build new homes, restore old neighborhoods, and ensure that ethics always come before profit. We are here today because men like Victor Dre have been brought to light, arrested, and prosecuted for what they've done. And we are here because Langston Group, despite its mistakes, chose to make it right. The applause thundered louder. As Evelyn stepped down, Rosa pulled her into a hug and whispered, "You make us proud." Evelyn held her hand tightly, feeling as if a part of her heart had finally healed. After the ceremony, as the crowd slowly dispersed, Jasper led Evelyn to a quiet corner of the park where a wooden bench sat under a leafy tree. "I have something for you," he said, pulling a small silver key from his pocket. It was engraved with a single word, "Together." "This isn't paperwork or a contract. It's an invitation, one door I want to open with you." Evelyn took the key, her heart beating faster. She looked into Jasper's eyes and saw only sincerity. "What kind of door?" she asked with a teasing tone. Jasper stepped closer, his breath blending with the spring air. "A door to a shared life, Evelyn. I want to walk with you in this fund, through every challenge and in every joy. I won't promise something grand, just that I'll be honest, and I'll stay." Her eyes stung with tears, but she smiled brightly. "This is the first real promise I've ever seen no lawyer required," she said, gripping the key. "But you know, I take commitments very seriously." Jasper laughed, the sound echoing through the quiet park. "I figured that out the moment you silenced an entire courtroom." She placed a hand on his shoulder, her gaze soft. "All right, Jasper Langston, I'll walk with you, but you have to keep that promise of honesty." He took her hand, eyes unwavering. "I swear. Just us and all the doors will open together." That evening in her apartment, Evelyn sat on the sofa, Jasper's key resting gently on the table. She opened her laptop and read a headline from the New York Times, "Langston Hart Fund, Rebuilding the Bronx Through Justice." The article described how Langston Group had become a symbol of ethical real estate. Though smaller now after the collapse triggered by Victor Dre's crimes, it had gained the trust of the community and sustainable investors. Dre had been arrested and was awaiting trial for fraud, bribery, and document forgery. It was a legal victory that removed a traitor from the company and restored its soul. Jasper was still CEO, now leading the company with a renewed mission, transparency and affordable housing, not flashy IPOs, but something more lasting. Evelyn smiled and closed the laptop. She didn't need the press to know Jasper had kept his word, not just to her, but to all of the Bronx. She picked up the key, her fingers tracing the word, "Together." No contracts, no signatures. Just two people who stood in the storm and chose what was right. Evelyn looked out her window, where the lights of the Bronx shimmered in the night. Whatever the future held, she and Jasper would face it together, opening doors that were finally real.